Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Perspective Podcast. My guest today is Sam Dunning. Sam is the co owner and sales director of WebChoice UK, an award winning digital marketing agency that provides web development and SEO services. Sam, welcome to the show.
Hey Manu, good to be here, man. Thanks very much for having me on. Appreciate it.
So, Sam, before we jump into this, tell us a bit more about your background story and how you got into what you do today.
Ooh, yeah, there's a bit to it, so I'll try and give you the less boring version. So, as I know, I've bored a lot of people on podcasts in the past, but I started in retail. So I used to sell cameras. So I worked for a little camera shop. Well, at the time, it was quite a big chain called Jessop's in the UK, and basically we sold things like cameras, SLRs, memory cards, camera cases, all that, anything to do with the camera, you could find it at Jessop's. So this was one of the first jobs when I was back about 18. So I'm 30 now. So it's about 12 years ago. And it to be fair, I didn't really enjoy it. So it was one of those jobs I needed a job at the time because I just finished college. I needed to earn some money. So I started doing it and there was no real incentive. So it was our manager was telling us to kind of sell as many cameras, as many add-ons, so as many memory cards, cases, insurance plans with these cameras. But there was no real drive because there was no commission plan, there was no bonus structure. The manager was a bit of a dick. The people I was working with weren't necessarily the nice. I had a couple friends, and I just didn't really like dealing with people face to face. And that manager went, and then we got an even worse manager. And I just thought, I'm
Mm.
not really motivated to do this anymore. My cousin came over to me and said, "Sam, there's a job going at this web company, and we do websites and digital marketing." I said, "Sounds great." He said, "Do you want an interview? I can get you one tomorrow." I said, "Yeah." So the next day, he gets me in for this interview with the owner at the time, Felix, and asked me a few questions. I said, "Look, I've got a little bit of a sales experience. I've got a little bit of experience dealing with people." The next day, he offers me the job. I quit my camera shop job on the spot and start doing websites. So I start out as kind of a project manager stroke sales guy, as it was very, very small at the time, just three of us really in a small team. And yeah, one of these funny stories I've shared on a few podcasts is I one of the first sales I did was I basically sold the equivalent of LinkedIn for about £500 because I had no idea what I was doing on the phone. We had a lead come in and they were asking me all these questions. They were saying, "Yeah, we need a website similar to LinkedIn, similar to Zing, which is like the German equivalent of LinkedIn." And I basically said yes to every question they asked me and somehow blagged my way through to it, undersold this website by the most I could have undersold it. And fortunately, the client at the time didn't carry through that project and we managed to ship them off onto a smaller site. So it didn't work out badly. But yeah, years have gone by. And over time, I've worked in a different marketing company. I've worked for a call center. So learning more about sales, learning more about marketing. And then a couple of years back, I came back to WebChoice as a sales manager and eventually worked my way up to becoming one of the owners with two other chaps. And essentially, I just really enjoy growing businesses. I enjoy this working for a digital marketing company as it gives freedom, so I can work remotely when I want. But it's enjoyable because when a project goes well, you actually see the results, i.e., clients get more leads or they get more sales or
Mm.
whatever their end goal is. So it's tangible ROI, although the product itself, digital marketing, is not tangible. So yes, it's good fun, man. That's a brief snapshot, but feel free to ask questions if you've got any.
Yeah, so let's talk about websites. Many people say today, like with the rise of social media, that if you are on social media, you don't need to have a website at all. And I disagree with that because, like, having a website has its advantages too. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that as an expert. Do you think that every business needs to have a website and why?
I don't think every business needs to have a website. I think businesses probably should have a website.
Mm-hmm.
As funny enough, I posted something like this on LinkedIn yesterday. So, LinkedIn, social media, whatever channel it is, can be great. I mean, take our business as an example. LinkedIn is about the third best performing channel for us in terms of generating leads and generating revenue. However, social media is basically being on rented land. So they could change the algorithm, they can change the goalposts, they can change exactly how it works at any given stage. I mean, LinkedIn probably won't, because that would annoy a heck of a lot of people if they changed everything tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone would be going mad. Um, but they can, because they own it, we don't. And the same with Instagram, the same with Facebook, the same with Pinterest, the same with TikTok. They could change anything tomorrow if they
Yeah.
wanted to at the drop of a hat. So having platforms that you own, i.e., it could be your website, is beneficial, because that's something that's fully yours. If you build it yourself or build it with a company, um, aka if you're driving traffic to that site, it can be a great way to, which we can talk about in a minute, to kind of earn people's trust, to give people a good idea of what you do, and to generate inbound opportunities, aka inbound leads, or to sell your stuff if you're
Yeah. Yeah.
e-commerce.
And you know what I like about websites is that, for example, if there's some information that you don't want people to miss, and if you post it on social media, it will die after a week or two. And you
Yeah.
have to pin it somehow so people always see it. But when you have your website, like, and you feature all the required information that you need always people to see, so it won't be like dying after a few weeks. So that's one of the ways that you can use websites too. So
Hmm.
also when someone like doesn't have a big audience on social media, so they can't like drive traffic to their websites through social media. SEO can be a great way to drive that traffic. What are the key steps you think people need to follow to get started with SEO and generate traffic and sales?
Great question. So SEO is something we're passionate about, something I'm personally passionate about. It's such a great way as a long-term strategy, much like building a following on LinkedIn. It's a long-term game. So unfortunately, it's not something you can click your fingers and overnight you're going to be page one for all the search terms. You're going to get tons
Yes.
of traffic, tons of leads, tons of sales. So it does need a thoughtful strategy. So there are a few main elements to creating a winning SEO strategy, as it were. First and foremost is getting the foundation right. So before you even think about kind of tinkering with your website, tinkering with the content, the technical markup, or trying to do offsite work, you really want to do the research properly. And there's a number of tools you can use the research. It could be SEMrush, it could be Google Keyword Planner. You could utilize Google Search Console, and really you want to think about, firstly, what are the main products or the main services I want to be selling.
Mm.
So let's say you provide, I don't know, let's say you're a I don't know, sales management consultant. So you might want to be on page one of Google for, if someone's searching sales management consultancy, if someone's searching like best sales trainers, if someone's searching like high performance sales trainers. So those might be some of the main services that you actually want to get leads for. So you've got to think about whether that's a product, whether that's a service. And then you can use these kind of tools, or if you employ a company, they can use these tools to work out the search terms, work out if they're getting search volume. But one of the things to consider is that some search terms may be flooded, so they may be highly competitive. There may be companies that are spending thousands, if not millions, on them per month. So they might not be worth going for. So you may want to look at kind of what's called longer tail search terms. To give you a quick idea without boring you too much, a longer tail search term, if we were a sales trainer, might be best sales trainer in the UK or best sales trainer in the USA. So adding extra terms to the keyword. And yeah, it's essentially about looking at search terms that are relevant, that have high intent. So if someone's looking at it, they're probably going to need your services, picking the ones that are relevant to what you offer. And then once you've got a list of search terms you want to hone in on, there's a couple things you need to do on your website.
Mm.
So we need to look at an on-site strategy, because there's two main elements to SEO, right? There's on-site SEO and there's off-site SEO. Everything you do on your website, everything you do off your website. And feel free to jump in if I'm moving too fast. So
Oh.
on-site, you need to look at the technical side of things. So once we've got our search terms we want to target, technically, we need to make sure that because Google recently released something called Core Web Vitals, and it's really important that your website hits a number of things to help it rank better. So that one of those things includes page speed. So this is something I ramble on about a lot. Your website needs to load lightning fast, because if it's slow, it's really going to affect the customer experience. And if no one likes a slow site, if they click your listing in Google and it takes 10 seconds to load, they're going to head to a competitor that gives them a more enjoyable experience. So it's things like that. It's things like making sure what's called the technical markups, so things like meta titles, meta descriptions, which is the actual
Mm.
listing that you see in Google, are on par with the search terms that you've agreed on. Making sure all other elements, so page titles, H1 tags, etc. Now, getting into the content, Google loves fresh content, it loves relevant content, it loves informative content that's really going to help the user, and so do people. Ultimately, if you're searching for something, let's say, bring it back to the sales training thing. If you search for sales trainer and you click on a page that doesn't really help you out, so it doesn't say kind of, here's why we're the best sales trainer, here's some useful resources like some blogs, some videos, some articles, some infographics. If it just gives a couple lines of text and asks you to get in touch, it's not really building confidence that they're a useful resource. So making sure that that you have dedicated information pages for your key services that are linked to your search terms, and making sure those information pages are really relevant, useful, and helpful resources. So if someone lands on that content page, they're really encouraged to learn more about what you offer, and then click through, learn a bit more about your company, and eventually get in touch with you. So request a quote or give
Yeah,
you a
yeah.
call.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because, I noticed like some people when it comes to SEO, and even I noticed this for people who use hashtags on Instagram. So they use keywords that attracts their competition to them instead of attracting their customers. They use
Right,
keywords that their competition is searching for. For
right.
example, if I'm selling Facebook advertising services, like people start using keywords like for example, how to solve this specific problem when it comes to Facebook advertising, which means like when the customer is searching for Facebook advertising services, they don't know about those details, they won't search about it. You are attracting your competition to you because your competition who's doing Facebook ads is searching for these keywords, and they keep like attracting the wrong type of people to their websites or even on Instagram when they use hashtags.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It's got to be relevant to what you do. Um, and if, for example, bringing it back to the side of things, if you did decide best sales trainer was one of your search terms, you might want to do a page purely devoted to that, and maybe have some useful videos, maybe have some useful question and answers, maybe have some useful infographics, and just really help the user get a feel for what you can offer, how you can help them, as
Mm,
much detail. And ultimately, if you can produce better content than your competition over time, that's going to pay off and get you more traffic. And once you've optimized your site in terms of the technical side of things, in terms of the content, really providing value, really making sure it's relevant to the search terms you're going for, and also helping your customers enjoy their experience on your website, then you can look at the off-site strategy. So this might be things like creating articles, creating press releases, creating blogs, posting out infographics, posting out animated videos, whatever this content is, and
mm,
then distributing it onto trusted websites that perhaps related to your industry, and building what's called backlinks that send users back to your site, which all send signals to Google, which over time is going to build up your website's domain authority, build up your link juice, and also build up your organic positionings in Google over time when done consistently, when done over time.
yeah.
And that's what's going to get you the web traffic. That's what's going to get you those page one results. And most importantly, get you the inbound leads or the sales, depending on what you're looking to do. So that's a
Yeah.
quick snapshot.
And when it comes to building a successful website, but in terms of conversion, like getting people to convert, are there any key points you focus on to have like more conversions? For example, the simplicity of the website, the speed, and those stuff.
Yeah. So kind of starting from the ground up, definitely fast. So try and get your website speed under 2 seconds. And you can use tools like Google Page Speed Insights. Not only will that tell you how quickly your website is, Page Speed Insights will give you actionable tips. So if you need to like reduce image sizes, reduce videos, reduce things like JavaScript and stuff like that to speed up the page, it gives you actionable tips. So that's something to consider. But before even someone's going to look at your website, your design, your content, it needs to be fast.
Yeah.
Likewise, before they properly look at your website, it needs to not only be mobile responsive, but depending on your traffic, a lot of websites now should be mobile first, because search terms typically in most countries, mobile outweighs desktop. So not only having a site that looks okay on mobile, but a site that looks awesome on mobile that really provides an enjoyable experience. So thinking about a mobile first design, although it's not always applicable for some audiences, a responsive site is fine because some more traditional businesses have more desktop searches. But yeah, making sure it works great mobile, tablet, PC. Bumping straight into the site. So the first thing people are going to see on your homepage or your landing page is probably a big heading.
Mm,
Um, so make sure your site passes something called the grunt test. So if someone stuck your website right now in front of a caveman sitting in a cave in caveman times, could this caveman look at your homepage and within 3 seconds grunt exactly what you do, exactly how you help people, and exactly how to get in touch with you? So let's say they land on Web Choice's site. Hopefully they'd know we do websites and SEO. We help businesses grow, and they can get a free quote straight away. The first headline before you need to scroll. If your website does not pass that grunt test, it needs work. Moving on, it needs to, design wise, do you want to kind of craft your design not around what you like, but ultimately around what your customers like? Otherwise, you're missing opportunities. If you're designing it around what you personally prefer, then you're not getting the best results you can. So how can you do that? If you've already got a client list, then you can reach out to them. So for example, if you've got an email list, you can actually send them surveys. So you can actually say, let's say you've got a website design already. You could run a quick survey saying, look, what do you like about this design on a scale of 1 to 5? How easy is it to navigate? How does it stack up against our competition? How easy was it to find what you were looking for? And what areas would you improve? So that kind of data from your existing customers will really give you all the info you need on how you need to craft this design. Because remember, the website's not for you; it's for your prospective ideal clients.
Mm.
And then utilizing these things we've talked about in the SEO, so crafting the design around your client's needs in terms of look and feel, making sure it's got all the useful resources there. So whether that's specific information pages on services and useful resources, whether that's a blog, a video page, and so on, and building trust. So typically, business to business sites want to kind of showcase their services, showcase their work, give examples, and then drive people to request a quote, book a call, get in touch, whatever that call to action is. So
Mm.
have call to actions consistently through your website. So it's not difficult for people to get in touch with you. So it's really, really easy, no matter what page someone's on, to either give you a call, fill out a quote form, or email you direct, or even live chat. So just giving people the flexibility to get in touch with you on their preferred contact channel. Um, and then to really build up the trust, you can leverage social proof on your website. So leveraging things like testimonials, case studies, reviews, accreditations, perhaps portfolio pieces. So all these little things can just build up people's trust when they're scrolling through your website through your different pages, and having those call to actions so people can easily contact you or call you or get in touch with you are just going to help you enjoy more business from your website.
Yeah. And, let me ask you my favorite question when it comes to sales. I always ask this question to every agency owners. So the agency world is like getting too crowded. Even freelancers are starting to position themselves as agencies. Like they are creating logos, websites, and they start like to position themselves as
Yep.
agencies. Is there any specific approaches you are taking as a sales director or as a sales team to stand out and be able to sell your services?
Great question. Great question. Is there's a few ways you can do it. I mean, you've got to have some kind of different offering, or you've got to stand out in some way. Because like you say, take our agency for example, websites, SEO, digital marketing. Every man and his dog's trying to sell a website these days, so you've got to break through the noise. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Mano, in terms of managing people's socials and
Yeah.
managing Facebook ads. There's tons of people doing it. Every man and his dog claims to be a digital marketer. So I mean, some of the ways I've had success is practicing what you preach.
Hmm.
So if you're going to sell a service to people, you better make damn sure you're good at it yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so that's basics. I shouldn't need to say that. But for example, with SEO, the first thing people usually ask us is, have you got page one rankings for what you do? So we should have that. And likewise, if you're offering something, but ways you can break through the noise, and some ways that are going to be more cost effective. Let's say you're a startup and you don't have much budget and you might not be able to pump into SEO or paid ads, are thinking about setting up a personal brand. So whether that's LinkedIn, if your customers are in the business world and they hang out on LinkedIn, so creating content that's going to provide useful
Hmm.
tips, helpful information, and kind of give people confidence in what you do. LinkedIn is something we've had great success with. Perhaps you create a podcast like you and I are doing right now. So you prove yourself over time to be a useful resource. And again, you're standing out from most companies, because most companies or businesses won't take the time to create a podcast that builds value, builds trust, and shares free tips. Or maybe you create an email letter, a newsletter, kind of weekly free
Yeah.
advice, free resources. So just thinking of ways that you can provide useful information. So over time, people start to realize that you know what you're talking about. You break through the mold, and you're giving them a useful resource. So because they keep seeing you in their feed, or they keep seeing an email or videos, whatever channel this is, over time, you're the one that when they need help, you're going to be the guy or the girl that they come to.
Yeah, yeah, I really love that. And it's really simple. It just requires like consistent work to be able to accomplish that. So,
Yeah.
before we wrap up, you recently launched a new LinkedIn growth guide, which was amazing. So, tell us a bit more about it and where can people find it?
Hey, I appreciate that, dude. Yeah, so I did just launch a guide actually, because like you say, we were assessing our sales revenue for the last 3 year for the last year, and realized that LinkedIn was our third best performing. So we did
Mm.
over six figures in it. But I'm not a LinkedIn guru. I'm not a LinkedIn expert. I don't know that much about LinkedIn. I've just been messing around with it for the last couple of years, and the
Yeah.
strategy that I've managed to put together has helped us bring on board a heck of a lot of inbound leads over time. So through my own trial and error and my own pain, I've built this guide to kind of save people time. So you can find that at linkedinbook.com. That's linkedinbook.com. It's cheap, it costs less than a coffee and a cookie. So you can grab one of those pretty nicely. But yeah, apart from that, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, it's Sam Dunning. I share daily digital marketing tips. And if your company, if your business is frustrated, or you're tired of hunting for clients constantly and you want more inbound opportunities through your website, or perhaps you're annoyed that other companies are enjoying your business from Google, then give us a shout. It's webchoiceuk.com.
Awesome. Sam, thank you so much for being on the show.
Really appreciate it, dude. Thanks for having me.